My college roommate came back early and said, "Why are there federal agents asking about you?" Federal agents? I dropped my economics textbook and stared at Jake, who was standing in our dorm doorway looking like he'd just witnessed a murder. He was supposed to be home for the weekend visiting his parents, but here he was at 11 p.m. on a Friday night with this terrified expression I'd never seen before. Jake threw his overnight bag on his bed and immediately started pacing around our tiny room like a caged animal. "Dude, I'm not even kidding right now," he said, his voice shaking. "Two guys in black suits showed up at my parents' house 3 hours ago asking detailed questions about you. They knew your class schedule, your work-study job, even what time you usually go to sleep. My dad said they had badges and everything. They wanted to know if you'd been acting strange lately or if you'd mentioned anything about your family." "What kind of questions about my family?" I asked, but Jake was already pulling out his phone to show me a text from his mom. The message read, "The agents asked if your roommate ever talks about his father's military service or if he's ever mentioned anything about government contracts." I felt my blood turn to ice because my dad had never served in the military. He was an accountant at a small firm in Ohio who did taxes for local businesses. Jake continued scrolling through messages from his parents, each one more disturbing than the last. They'd asked about my computer habits, whether I received any unusual packages, and if I'd ever made phone calls in languages other than English. The agents had even requested copies of any photos Jake's family might have taken when they visited campus, specifically looking for pictures that included me in the background. Jake sat down on his bed and looked at me with genuine fear in his eyes. "They gave my parents a business card and said they'd be in touch if I remembered anything else about you," he said quietly. "But here's the really messed up part. When my mom tried to call the number on the card after they left, it was disconnected. And when my dad looked up their badge numbers online, they didn't match any active federal agents. These guys were either fake agents or they were operating completely off the books." Jake showed me a photo his mom had secretly taken of the agent's car through their front window. The license plate was visible, and it wasn't a government vehicle. It was registered to a private security company based in Virginia that specialized in corporate espionage and background investigations. I immediately called my parents to warn them, but the phone call that followed made everything infinitely worse. My mom answered on the first ring, and her voice was filled with panic I'd never heard before. "Honey, we've been trying to reach you all day," she said, her words tumbling over each other. "Your father isn't who you think he is. After you called yesterday asking about his military service, I confronted him about why strangers would be investigating our family. He broke down and told me everything. Your father has been living under a false identity for 23 years. His real name is David Kowalski, and he's been in witness protection since before you were born. The agents asking about him aren't federal investigators. They're hired killers sent by the crime family he testified against decades ago." My entire world collapsed as my mom explained that my dad had witnessed a murder when he was 19 and agreed to testify against the Polish mob in exchange for a new identity and protection. The government had relocated him to Ohio, given him the name Robert Mitchell, and created an entire fake background including fake employment records and a fabricated personal history. He'd met my mom 2 years later, and they'd built their life together based on a lie that was supposed to keep all of us safe. But somehow, after more than 2 decades, his old identity had been discovered. The fake federal agents were part of a systematic effort to track him down by investigating his family members and close associates. Jake's family had been questioned because dorm records showed he was my closest contact at school. The situation escalated rapidly when Jake and I discovered that our dorm room had been searched while he was away. Nothing obvious was missing, but subtle things were out of place. My laptop had been moved slightly, my desk drawers weren't quite closed properly, and someone had gone through my laundry basket. Hidden in my textbooks, we found a small tracking device that had been planted during the search. Jake immediately called campus security while I contacted my parents to warn them that our location had been compromised. Within hours, federal marshals arrived at our dorm to place me in protective custody while they worked to relocate my family to a new safe location. My dad's 23-year-old secret had finally caught up with him, and the fake agents questioning Jake's family were just the beginning of a coordinated effort to eliminate the witness who'd put 3 high-ranking mob figures in prison.